Hey there, my friend, welcome. I'm Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, founder here at the Fit Father Project, and in today's video, we are going to talk about intermittent fasting, some of the basics, some of the science behind why fasting works, and some special considerations on whether fasting is right for you and your schedule. And if you're considering starting fasting, I'm also going to give you some action steps on how you can implement a couple of the most popular intermittent fasting timing setups into your routine to see some results with your fat loss, your weight loss, your muscle building, whatever your goal is right now. Now, personally, I've been playing around with intermittent fasting for the past 5-6 years, so I'm very experienced. And here at the Fit Father Project, I've also helped thousands of guys get started on intermittent fasting meal plans. So I need you to know, though, intermittent fasting is just one of the many tools we can choose to use if our goal is to live healthier, build muscle, lose fat. It's definitely very hyped up right now. That's why I want to shoot this video, to kind of separate a lot of the hype from the actual science and hardline data and help you decide if it's right for you. You know, it's not the end-all be-all miracle solution to losing fat and eating whatever you want, like a lot of hyped up marketing BS makes you want to claim. But we're going to cover that in the video, and I know you're going to learn a ton. So get out a pen and paper, take some notes, and let's dive on into this video and let's cover the basics of intermittent fasting.
FitFatherProject.com.
All right, so before we get into some of the science, I want to talk about some of the politics behind intermittent fasting and why it's such a popular thing right now. And I think the big reason why intermittent fasting is getting such a surge in popularity is that it almost flies in the face of a lot of the nutrition dogma that we preached through the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. And that was, we used to think that the best way to lose weight, build muscle, and be healthy was you had to eat 6 small meals per day, or you had to eat every 2 hours and graze. And the idea was that if you ate small, frequent meals, you would be stoking your metabolism and you get a metabolic boost from these small, frequent feedings. And then intermittent fasting, there was some compelling research, particularly from some athletes during Ramadan, where they were doing these long religious fasts, that found that during the fasting, when these rugby players were doing the Ramadan fasting, they actually lost fat and built muscle, which flew in the face of everything we thought was really true. And there's a ton more research that was being published behind the scenes that then came out of the woodworks and got a lot more popular and basically said, hold on, pump the brakes. Turns out that you don't need to eat small, frequent meals to lose weight and to build muscle. It actually turns out that the total number of calories and your macronutrients, the protein, carbs, and fats that you eat, that total number is the most important thing. And whether you choose to divide that up into 6 small meals, or whether you choose to do an intermittent fasting where you might have 1 or 2 big meals per day, you get the same results. And in fact, there are some actual metabolic benefits to having a period of time when you didn't eat. And that's what intermittent fasting does have an edge on some traditional diets. And we're going to cover some of the science and the benefits that happens to your body when you do fasting. But let's rewind for a second and talk about why our bodies are kind of built to fast and why we do get specific benefits from fasting. If we fast forward, a couple thousand years, even longer than that, like 10,000, 20,000 years, our ancient ancestors did not have constant food access. We did not have grocery stores or supermarkets. We were hunters and gatherers. And what that meant is that we didn't always have a next meal. So our bodies had to come up with mechanisms to survive and thrive in times of food scarcity. We might trap a wild animal or stumble on a patch of blueberries and eat a lot of food. And then there'd be times where maybe we didn't have as much food. So we had feasts and fasts, and our bodies kind of got into this rhythm of being able to preserve muscle mass and keep us healthy during these fasts. And this is what the research actually shows, is that during breaks from food, during a fast, and we'll talk about a 24-hour fast, for example, here's some of the changes that happen in your body. First thing is your body's main nutrient storage hormone, insulin, that typically gets stimulated when you eat carbohydrates and some proteins, is super low because you're not eating anything. So insulin's very low. And what that means is that your body's in fat burning mode. When insulin is elevated, your body actually stops burning fat because it gets into the storage mode. It says, okay, food's here, let's get it into the cells, let's get it into the muscle. But when insulin levels are low, they're at baseline during a fast, your body's constantly burning fat. It's relying on fat for fuel. It's fat from your actual fat cells. Your liver is actually helping release some glucose, and it's keeping your blood sugar levels stable. So we burn more fat during a fast. What also happens when insulin is very low is your growth hormone shoots through the roof. And there's actually some research showing that over a 24-hour fast, your growth hormone levels can increase by 1,600%. It's a massive spike, and this does not happen other times to this magnitude when we're not in a constantly fasted state. So that's very cool. And what growth hormone does is helps accelerate the fat loss process, but it also helps preserve muscle, and it's a great anti-aging hormone. It helps keep our organs and our skin and our muscles and our joints young. So there's some benefits to fasting on the growth hormone front. And on keeping insulin low, it keeps you more insulin sensitive. So when you do eat carbohydrates, your body processes those carbs better. So that's some of the metabolic benefits. Some of the other things is that your brain actually builds new brain cells during a fast. And this is something that we didn't really know was possible previously. It's a process called de novo neurogenesis, which is a fancy medical term for building new brain cells. This happens during a fast. Fasting, for whatever reason, upregulates our brain's building of these new neurons, and this is just an effect that happens, and it's really, really profound and awesome, especially for us who want to live healthy and not just look good, but have a healthy brain and healthy internal functioning. New neurons is always a good thing. So that's another great benefit of the intermittent fasting. But perhaps the best benefit that a lot of people find with the intermittent fasting comes down to the habits and behaviors. It is so much easier for a lot of people with busy schedules to have 1 to 2 meals per day versus having 6 small meals spaced every 2 hours. The amount of packing you have to do, the amount of food logistics, there's a lot that goes into having these really intense nutrition plans where fasting is like, hey, I can just have a large period of the day where I just don't eat, and then I have a bigger meal later in the day. And because you're having a bigger meal, that gives you a little more wiggle room with the types of foods you can have, because it's a lot harder to overeat let's say you compress your eating window. We'll talk about the exact fasting and eating windows in a second, but let's say that you intermittent fast and you have your first meal at 1 p.m. and you have your dinner at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. It's really hard to go over your calorie target, especially if your goal is to lose weight in those 2 meals. You could have 2 1,000 calorie meals and still be in a calorie deficit for the day. And that 1,000 calorie meal is going to keep you full for a very long time. So there's a benefit to fasting in the sense that we can have bigger meals. We can be a little more flexible with our food choices, so it's not like we have to have a dried chicken breast and broccoli every 2 hours. We get a little more wiggle room, and for some people that really does help from a behavior scheduling perspective. So those are some benefits of intermittent fasting, but I want to say before we get into the schedule setups, it's not for everyone. If you're the kind of person who works out in the morning, or you just love breakfast and you're in a routine where you like to get up and have breakfast first thing in the morning, then that's totally fine. You can still incorporate intermittent fasting into your routine. I'll give you a couple suggestions because it is a powerful health habit, but it doesn't have to be on a daily basis where you skip breakfast and take a late lunch or something like that. So we'll get into some special considerations, but first I want to talk about 2 of the main intermittent fasting setups that I use and we use with our clients here at the Fit Father Project. The first one is a 16-8 intermittent fasting framework, and this is popularized by an awesome blog called Lean Gains, and Martin Berkhan was a guy who really brought this to the mainstream. And what this eating setup is that 16 hours of your 24-hour day, you stay in a fasted state. And you pick an 8-hour eating window where you have all your meals. So basically we compressed out those normal meals into an 8-hour eating window. So practically speaking, for a lot of people, that 8-hour eating window is something around your first meal's at noon and your last meal ends at 8 p.m. So you have those 8 hours, and it might look like you have that first meal at noon, you have a snack at 3 to 4, and you have dinner around 7 o'clock or so. And so instead of really spreading out those meals with a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're kind of compressing everything into a smaller eating window. That is what we call here at the Fit Father Project the on-the-go meal plan setup. Inside our Fit Father 30-day program, this is our on-the-go meal plan setup is a 16-8 type framework that works really well for busy people who don't have time for a complicated breakfast and just want an on-the-go lunch and don't want to have to think about a lot of food. You just get up, you rehydrate, you drink your coffee, you're out the door, you have a healthy lunch, some kind of protein and veggies, and you have a snack that's non-perishable and dinner at home. It's a very practical eating setup, and it's really effective for weight loss because it's easy to control your calories in that smaller eating window and you don't have to do as much food prep. The other way that you can incorporate intermittent fasting that we also use here at the Fit Father Project is 24-hour dinner-to-dinner fasts, where 1 to 2 times per week you do a dinner-to-dinner fast, where let's say you had dinner tonight and then until dinner tomorrow, You just drink water, black coffee, herbal teas, just non-calorie drinks until dinner. So you'll have dinner tonight, you'll fast until dinner tomorrow. And this is a great way for people who love breakfast and don't want to do daily fasting to implement intermittent fasting and reap a lot of these health benefits. The higher growth hormone, the better insulin sensitivity, the fat burning benefits, and I forgot to mention the actual true detoxification benefits of intermittent fasting. That word detox gets thrown out really willy-nilly these days. There's all sorts of weird detox stuff out there, but your cells literally do detoxify themselves during fasting through this process called autophagy, where your cells digest a lot of metabolic waste and buildup and proteins, etc., that get built up, and it digests and breaks that down, and your cells basically take out the garbage. That happens and gets upregulated during fasting. So that's one reason why, even if you're a breakfast person, even if you have no problem controlling your calories, even if you love your current eating setup, it's still a good idea to do a 24-hour fast once per week with some green tea. It is a supercharged health habit, and it's something that we actually have our phase 2 program members on our Fit Father program start doing these 24-hour fasts, and you can see some of their results here as they move through the beginning of their journeys through phase 1, through phase 2, and phase 3. We're incorporating intermittent fasting into all plans, even if they're breakfast guys, because it is a very powerful health habit. So those are the two setups. You can commit to doing just that daily fasting, or you can incorporate 24-hour fasts. I love 24-hour fasts too, especially when you're traveling or if you have a special busy day, because instead of having to worry about crappy airport food or whatnot, you can just have dinner, travel to your location, and actually have your next meal. So it's a great way to kind of incorporate that stuff, practically speaking. Or if you have a tremendously busy work day, if your Mondays are typically slammed, then you can just have your coffee, your green tea, and just fast through until dinner. You're gonna find that you're going to be very focused and energized, because fasting actually helps upregulate a lot of the hormones that keep us alert and focused, which is another benefit of a fast, and you don't have to worry about eating and going around and having a bunch of meals during your really busy day. Now, fasting considerations. Who is this right for? Who is this wrong for? Well, for healthy people who can maintain blood sugar well, fasting can be a very safe thing to implement. Your body's very good at maintaining blood sugar. And during a fast, your blood sugar, if you have a healthy, blood sugar regulation, meaning you don't have metabolic syndrome or any kind of diabetes, pre-diabetes, fasting can be safe for you. If you have any of these conditions, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, or pre-diabetes, and you're taking insulin especially, this is something you absolutely have to work with your doctor on to see if it's okay with you, because that kind of changes the scenario. It's not normal biochemistry at that point, so fasting may not be appropriate for you. And overall, before you do any kind of this stuff, this is not medical advice. This is something you have to check with your doctor and make sure that it is right for you. Another consideration is if you or someone in your family has a history of disordered eating, fasting is probably not a great idea. It's just not an idea to restrict if that is in your history, your family's history, etc. Something to consider. Or if you're pregnant, lactating, fasting is not a good idea as well. So these are just some general considerations. Another thing is if you do choose, you work with your doctor, or you make your own decisions and you say, hey, fasting is something I want to try in my life, then I also want to make sure that you know some of these considerations. One, it's incredibly important during fasting, whether you're doing a 24-hour fast or that 16-8 kind of fasting setup, that you stay incredibly hydrated. Water is your best friend during a fast. So is black coffee and green tea, actually. Those can actually help accelerate the fat burning benefits during a fast. But stay super hydrated. I need you drinking, take your body weight in pounds, divide that by 2, and add 32 to that. And that's the number of ounces I'd like you to drink every single day during your fast. The water will keep you full. If you're not drinking enough water, you will feel headaches, you will feel tired. So hydration is incredibly important during your fast. Another thing is the meal that you break your fast with is also really important. It's great that you start that meal off with something like a salad, a bunch of good veggies and some healthy proteins. Prioritize a healthy, clean meal. A big mistake that people make is when they do these fasts is they fast for a while and then they have this just blowout first big meal and they eat a bunch of crap. That's not the way to do this fasting. It's to have a normal, good, healthy meal to break your fast. That's going to give you the best benefits of this health habit. And if you're not used to fasting as you're starting an intermittent fasting framework, you will feel hungry. It will take your brain a little bit to get used to the meal timing setup of intermittent fasting. But if you are typically a breakfast person, but you want to shift and try some of these daily 16-8 kind of fasting setups, you will notice that you may be a little bit hungry in the morning, but as you fast more, your body will adjust and you won't be hungry as often. So this is a real phenomenon where your brain actually adjusts to a new entrained eating pattern during intermittent fasting. So this is a big topic. I think we covered a lot of the fundamentals. There are some finer point details, like when should I work out when I'm fasting? What about, different kind of supplements when I'm fasting? And a lot of timing of this stuff, the proper calories you should have during intermittent fasting. We cover all of that in our Fit Father 30-day program, where we have more time with you to give you our full meal plan, give you all the recipes, give you the meal timing setups with the intermittent fasting. That's where we can deep dive with you. So if you're a person out there who is interested in intermittent fasting and wants to see how you can implement that into your routine, then definitely check out our Fit Father 30-day program, where we give you the Fit Father meal plan that has intermittent fasting meal timing setups, as well as regular meal timing setups. So you can mix and match and choose and pick which one's best for you. That's what's gonna work for you long term. So yes, intermittent fasting has a lot of benefits, both on the physiologic side and the psychological and habit side. And you need to figure out the schedule that's going to work best for you. So I hope this video gave you the big picture overview, and excited for you to hop in and join us in our 30-day program. Me and my training staff would love to get you started on a proper intermittent fasting framework, and we got you covered in the 30-day program. So if you like this and you're watching on YouTube, hit thumbs up. Let us know that you found something valuable. You got a couple pieces of information that you can implement or you found useful. And if you're on YouTube as well, subscribe to our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. We publish hundreds of new videos every year. We already have hundreds of videos on the channel right now on nutrition, fasting, muscle building, weight loss, motivation, all the things you need to stay strong and healthy for your family. We are the Fit Father Project. This is what we do. So thanks for stopping by, my friend. I'll see you in our 30-day program. I'll see you around our channel, and I'll talk to you very soon.